What's up, everybody? Demon back. Welcome to a brand new video, and we are done. This is the last video for the Showa series. I don't necessarily love this movie like a lot of people seem to, but I at least like it. So we're ending on what I consider to be a high note. I'm pretty happy to be moving on to the Heisei series for one of two reasons. Number one, it is a huge increase in quality. Number two, I am not very familiar with the Heisei series, so watching these movies is going to be kind of going into territory I'm not as familiar with. Yes, I do a Godzilla-Thon every year where I watch all the Godzilla movies and I try to match them up to, I try every week of school I try to watch a Godzilla movie. Now, usually about halfway through the year, there's Christmas break is around the time when I watch Godzilla 1984, which last year was the first year I ever got that movie. So before then I would take the week off. Now, coming back from Christmas break, I would almost always give up on Godzilla-Thon, or not necessarily give up, but not stick to it, where I just kind of watch here and there throughout the later half of the series. Obviously, I'm not doing that anymore because I got to review each movie individually, but yes, I'm not going to be very familiar with the Godzilla movies moving on from here on out, especially the next two, which will be, I'm going to say this now, I'm going to break up and do these in separate weeks of Godzilla 1984 and then Godzilla 1985, the same way I broke up Gojira and Godzilla King of the Monsters. I broke those up, I'm going to break these up, and when we get there, it'll make sense. You probably can already figure out why I'm going to do that. They're different movies. I'll say that now. They're different movies. But for this week, we are doing Terror of Mechagodzilla. I actually held off on my Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla video just so that I could do back-to-back Mechagodzilla. So I don't know why. I just thought, the movies are sequels to each other. The only direct sequels we have had in the whole Godzilla series up to this point. I mean, yes, Godzilla Raids Again is a direct sequel to Gojira, but the difference is it doesn't follow the exact same story necessarily. We do have a lot of crossover characters, like Yamane shows up in that one, but it's not as connected, I feel, to the previous film. We also have the mid-Showa trilogy being Mothra vs. Godzilla, immediately followed with Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster and Invasion of Astro Monster. Those had carryover characters with Mirai and Mothra's fairies. So those ones were all very connected as well, but we've never had one continuous story like we have with this. Both of those, the story is concluded completely in the other films. This one, you watch Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, they don't necessarily completely end the story. Yeah, they mostly end it. They don't necessarily completely end the story. We still don't know why the aliens were there, their motivations, or anything like that. We don't know if they're all gone or they're all dead or anything like that. Mechagodzilla is destroyed, but he is still left in pieces. Granted, I don't know how. They never explain how do they rebuild Mechagodzilla, because the pieces he's left in are tiny little fragments of this and that just go out through the world. So how he shows back up, I have no idea. But he does. They rebuild him, and we'll get into my complaints for the movie, because I do have some complaints involving the building of Mechagodzilla and some other stuff like that. But getting into the plot of this movie, it just has I should introduce this. This is the Japanese cut for Terror of Mechagodzilla, the 1975 film that concludes the Showa series. We basically have a bunch of returning cast members from the first Godzilla movie. We have Honda coming back for behind the scenes. We have Ifukube doing the music again. We have some returning actors. It's kind of the last get-together for this crew, because I don't think Honda never does another Godzilla movie, so this is his last one if I remember correctly. Now, it's a pretty fitting send-off because this movie's pretty dark, so that's one of the reasons why a lot of people love it. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I don't like it as much, because there is a huge tonal disconnect when you're going back-to-back like I did. Watch Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla immediately followed with Terror of Mechagodzilla. There's a huge tonal disconnect. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is it was directed by Jun Fukuda. Like I said last review, he did a ton of other Godzilla movies. He is a very kind of upbeat, happy, goofy, fun director. Then you get Honda behind the camera for the immediate sequel. Immediately, it's just a darker, much more intellectual movie. It's a better movie on that regard, of it is more intellectual, but because of that tonal disconnect, I don't like it as much as I like the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. So, we intro the movie in epic recap. The theme for this movie is amazing. I love this. You guys have seen, I've done so many piano covers of it, FL Studio covers of it. I love this song. So, epic recap of what happened last movie. We start out, a submarine is destroyed by some underwater dinosaur. They were looking for the remains of Mechagodzilla's wreckage. Really, really cool. The fact that we have a direct tie-in like that of them looking for the pieces of Mechagodzilla from the end of last movie. Interpol, once again, is on the case for this one. Of course, they were heavily connected to the aliens last movie. They were trying to take them down. This time, our main character works for Interpol. His name is Ichinose. He is a marine biologist, which means he takes a fascination to a Titanosaurus. Also, one thing you're going to notice, there's a lot more going on in this movie than there was in the previous one. The previous one, it was like, King Caesar's statue is found, the prophecy is revealed, they fly out, they meet some professors, Mechagodzilla shows up, starts wrecking stuff, Godzilla shows up, fights him, the two of them go away for a little bit, some people try and steal King Caesar's statue, Mechagodzilla shows up again, King Caesar shows up, they fight, Godzilla shows up, they fight, Mechagodzilla loses. That is that plot in a nutshell. There's way more going on in this movie than there is in that movie. So this plot synopsis is going to be a little bit more in-depth than the last one. Now, the aliens talk about how they need to go to Earth. So this is when we finally get their motivations. They need to go to Earth. We've had this motivation in previous movies with Godzilla vs. Gigan. Because their planet is going to die. They need to start working on Earth. They need to make it their new home. They say they started working with the scientist who has a past in mind-controlling animals. He discovered some giant undersea monster. No one believed him, so he was kind of shamed out of relevance. He was shamed out of the world, pretty much. He basically withdrew from everything because everyone took him as a joke, and that's actually kind of his character tragedy, is that although he was right in discovering Titanosaurus, everyone just kind of, they took away his job, they took away everything from him and left him basically to die. And so that's exactly what happens. His wife dies as a result, and he basically goes insane trying to prove his research. He eventually does, of course. His name is Dr. Mifune. He is played by the same actor who played one of the professors last movie. He is Dr. Serizawa, so it's good to see him back. I'm not going to say his name because I always wind up saying it wrong, and I always feel bad. So, Ichinose wishes to talk to Mifune to find out about the underwater monster, to find out if it's the same monster that could have destroyed the sub at the beginning of the movie. So he goes to Mifune's house. He talks to his daughter Katsura, who tells Interpol that Mifune has been dead for over 10 years. Mifune and the aliens complete the control of Titanosaurus, so he's obviously not dead. It was just trying to get the Interpol agents off their back. Katsura is also a very, very tragic character because she is used so against her will in this movie. She's basically brainwashed, and it's very tragic what happens to her. So they complete the control on Titanosaurus. It's revealed that the aliens are rebuilding Mechagodzilla. So this is one of my biggest complaints about the movie. So we see they're rebuilding Mechagodzilla super early into the movie, and Mechagodzilla doesn't show up until the end of the movie because most of the movie is focused on the building of Mechagodzilla. It is so dang slow paced. It's very disappointing. Once Mechagodzilla shows up, the movie really ramps up and gets good. Once Godzilla shows up, the movie really ramps up and gets good. But Godzilla doesn't show up till about an hour in, or maybe later. And it's only like an hour and a half movie, or an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's a little sad. The pacing, there's some big pacing issues. First half of the movie drags on so bad. Once Godzilla shows up, it all of a sudden just picks up. And then Godzilla, once he's taken out of the fight, the movie slows way back down until he shows back up. It's very jarring, the pacing of this movie. So, an Interpol agent escapes the alien base. He is shot to death. Ichinose wants to continue researching what Mifune started. So he wants to continue looking for Titanosaurus. Katsura warns him not to because she knows that if he does go looking for Titanosaurus, then the aliens are going to kill her. Because the world turned their back on Mifune and his wife died as a result. It's revealed at this point. The Interpol agents who died earlier, so the Interpol agent who escaped the alien base who died earlier, now it's revealed through a flashback that he found this sewer worker. His throat was cut apart, so he couldn't speak anymore, like Planet of the Apes. Although in that movie it was his brain, but in this one it's his throat is cut, so his vocal cords are cut, so he cannot talk anymore. Pretty dark stuff, and then he gets executed just for being a human. Pretty dark stuff. And we can assume, because the alien leader from last movie somehow didn't die when the whole base exploded, we can assume if any of those characters who were running away at the end of the last movie made it out there, maybe they got kidnapped again, and this might have been a similar fate that they suffered, where they just got tortured to death. I also love the part when the alien leader, he turns and he says, "Don't worry, no one can escape our control." And then you watch Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, people are escaping that alien base right and left in that movie, and then even in this movie someone gets out of there. So yeah, definitely they don't have the highest security, and then he goes, "No one can escape our control." So it's kind of funny for that reason. Now he comes across this sewer worker, he spells out Interpol on his hand before he's killed, and then he gives the dude some space titanium so that the guy can basically bring it to Interpol, be like, "Check this out." Also, it's good to see space titanium being brought back up from last movie because that's another direct tie-in. He can basically be like, "Check this out, found it in this area where this Interpol agent died. I should give it to you guys because you know what to do." So Katsura tries to warn Ichinose again about what's going on, but she is shot in the head by some blue laser that the aliens have. Now they basically mind control her, and that's basically why she's a bad guy in this movie, is because they mind control her. So it's revealed now that Katsura was actually killed while working on an experiment with Mifune, trying to prove the existence of Titanosaurus. The aliens brought her back to life and turned her into a cyborg, which is one of the tragedies of her character, is that she couldn't even die because they wouldn't let her die. Multiple times in this movie she dies and they bring her back to life just to use her as a weapon. So they brainwash her into hating humans. Titanosaurus is discovered by this submarine. The submarine luckily has a supersonic wave transmitter, and Titanosaurus's mind control is lost. He kind of goes flailing around through the water. I also love how it's mentioned Titanosaurus is also kind of a tragic character, because it's mentioned by nature he is a docile monster. Like, he's not aggressive by nature, and so the fact that he's been weaponized the same way Katsura has gives both of them a level of tragedy that, you wouldn't necessarily have in a monster movie. So I guess with Gigan, he was weaponized as well, but Gigan is a bad guy downright, because when he's unmind controlled, he still beats the hell out of Godzilla and tries to kill him. So the mind control is lost, the submarine gets away, so the humans also get away and they live. Now they know Titanosaurus is down there. Katsura finds out that Titanosaurus is vulnerable to supersonic waves. She expresses her fear of Titanosaurus joining the rank of other killing monsters such as King Ghidorah. I love that because it also brings back previous Showa films. I think we see some stock footage from, a long time ago. It must have been Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster we see, or Invasion of Astro Monster. She also then mentions Manda. We see some Destroy All Monsters stock footage, which technically, in continuity, doesn't make any sense, because how do they have footage of the future? That movie takes place in the 90s. This movie takes place in the 70s. How do they have footage of the future? It's unexplained, so that footage shouldn't exist unless we are to assume that maybe that's of what may happen in the future. Footage like of that, I don't know. I don't think they thought about it. I think they were just like, just throw some footage of Amanda in there, and then they have one other monster. It might be Rodan. It could be wrong, but I think it's Rodan. They have some footage of Rodan destroying stuff as well. So really cool to see all these old guys brought back up. Mifune gets upset and unleashes Titanosaurus on Tokyo. They plan to have the plan is to have Godzilla show up, fight Titanosaurus, win. That's what the aliens say, is that he'll probably win. But he will be weakened. Then Mechagodzilla will launch his counterattack, which is also an alternate title for the movie, Mechagodzilla's Counterattack. Or was it Godzilla's Counterattack? I don't know. There's so many different titles for these movies. So the plan is to basically weaken Godzilla in a fight with Titanosaurus, because they're like, well, crap, Mifune screwed up. He ruined our plan. Let's just make a new one on the fly. So they're like, Godzilla will go in there, fight Titanosaurus, probably win. He's the king of the monsters. Mechagodzilla is going to show up afterward and kill Godzilla off. Now, Godzilla, he does show up. Godzilla's intro is amazing. So Titanosaurus is destroying the city. Every time Godzilla shows up in this movie, it is so awesome. So Titanosaurus destroying the city. I think it's Tokyo. They never say. They just call it the city. Destroying Tokyo. He's making his way into the heart of the city. All of a sudden, you just see this figure sit up in the background. Titanosaurus is walking. There's no music. He's just walking, stomping his way through. Blue beam comes out of nowhere, nails him in the chest. He goes flying. Titanosaurus goes flying. All of a sudden, you zoom into the dark. It's slowly revealed. The light slowly shines on Godzilla's face. The music ramps up, that epic terror of Mechagodzilla, Godzilla theme. He starts roaring, and then it's just, he goes in there and he starts to fight. It is so cool. I love Godzilla's music in this movie. Godzilla's intro, like I said, every time Godzilla shows up is awesome. He'll have another great intro to the second fight, and then he'll have a great intro in the middle of the third fight. It is so cool, and I love the fact that Godzilla's hero theme in this movie is eventually twisted and turned into Godzilla's villain theme in Shin Godzilla, which, that's the most recent Godzilla movie, so it's going to be a long, long time since we get there in Godzilla-Thon. I just wanted to bring that up now because the fact that they turned Godzilla's hero theme from this movie into Godzilla's villain theme in that movie, so dang cool. I love that. It's awesome, and this song is just so good. So, Katsura is shot off a cliff during all the chaos. Titanosaurus retreats because of it. Katsura is repaired with a shot. It's the only shot of nudity minus Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. It's the only shot of nudity in a Godzilla movie. I say Space Godzilla because you see in Space Godzilla there's like a shot of a man's butt at some point or another. But Katsura's breasts appear in this movie. I always forget about this scene, almost always, when I watch this movie. It's only the Japanese cut. It's not in any of the others, but I don't know. Like, I feel like for the 70s, like, that's pushing it, and especially for this movie, I think, was like rated G or PG at the time, or maybe it was unrated. I have no idea. But I'm surprised because I know that, like I said, I know they cut it out of the versions that aired on TV as well as the versions that aired in America. So the only version of this that has that is the DVD as well as the theatrical release, because the DVD is the theatrical release, or at least the DVD that I have. I'm just surprised that it's in this movie, and especially because the late Showa series is marketed towards children, I'm surprised they kind of got away with it. Although they're fake, like obviously it's a mannequin. It's the actress's head, but it's a mannequin's body, and then they're operating on all these wires and stuff on the inside because they're bringing her back to life. So just thought I'd warn you guys, if you haven't seen this movie, there's nudity in it, and it's not like brief either. It's like there for a minute. So Mechagodzilla's controllers are installed into Katsura, so she is a walking controller for Mechagodzilla, also adding to her tragedy. They weaponize her completely in this scene. Ichinose is captured by the aliens. Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus attack Tokyo. So this is one of the best handled attack scenes I've ever seen in a Showa monster movie. So first, before that happens, though, some slaves are rescued from the alien base. The alien base self-destructs because they no longer need it. The only thing that's left is the control room. They blow it up because that's where they built Mechagodzilla, and they don't need that space anymore. So many explosions in this movie. So, and it also establishes Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla and the aliens from the third planet from the black hole as a real threat. You don't necessarily feel any threat from them in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla shows up, destroys this and that, and then the end fight happens outside of a city, so he doesn't really do anything destructive. He doesn't do anything that bad. He destroys one building, to my knowledge, and one factory. Now, in this movie, he also knocks over a bridge at one point. Now, in this movie, he wipes out Tokyo. He levels Tokyo, and Titanosaurus is there with him. He helps. Titanosaurus' tail opens up, swings around, huge wind gusts, blows everything away like a typhoon. Mechagodzilla has these rotating finger missiles, his new ability for the movie. They devastate Tokyo. Mechagodzilla just demolishes everything. He is so powerful, and so many explosions. So I mentioned last movie review, one thing that made Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla so great is just the sheer amount of random explosions happening is so entertaining. This movie, the explosions just really give you a level of, wow, this is a very threatening situation. So definitely Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla are established as a real threat. Titanosaurus actually kills some children at one point. They make it look like Godzilla saves them in time, but he doesn't. So these kids walk up to Titanosaurus and they're like looking at him. Titanosaurus goes, lifts his foot up, moves it right over these kids. We cut to Godzilla standing up and charging at him. Another great intro for Godzilla, another great hero moment. Godzilla charges in, trying to stop him, but you see Titanosaurus' both his feet are on the ground at this point. Those kids died. Now, Godzilla shows up to save the day. It's a great fight that breaks out. Godzilla gets some good hits, but he's eventually defeated. It's a 2v1, so it's reversed from last movie. Godzilla, King Caesar, good guys versus Mechagodzilla, the bad guy. This movie, you have Titanosaurus, Mechagodzilla, bad guys versus Godzilla, the good guy. So it's a great flip. Godzilla eventually, like I said, he does lose, or sort of. He's defeated, taken out of the fight at least. This is when the movie slows down again. So Titanosaurus, they bring out this helicopter with a new sonic ray attached to it, and they start blasting at Titanosaurus to loosen his control. Eventually, Godzilla reemerges. Great scene. Throws himself out of the ground because he gets buried at one point in the fight. Throws himself out of the ground. Blasts Mechagodzilla with the atomic breath. So many explosions at this part. Godzilla's running away from them all, trying to get out of there alive. Then he turns around, heads back for Mechagodzilla, goes in for the fight. Great battle. Godzilla kicks some butt. So the military breaks Titanosaurus' control. Ichinose kills the alien leader. He chokes him to death, and then the dude's face falls off. He doesn't turn into a space ape, but his face falls off. Really weird. Godzilla takes Mechagodzilla's head off. So this is what I was talking about last review. The fact that Godzilla has so much intelligence to be like, oh, well, I remember this. Let me just get right behind you and tear your head off again. It just shows a level of intelligence we've never had with Godzilla before, of him logically thinking out how to defeat his opponent and then acting upon it. We never see that before this. We never see Godzilla, at least to my knowledge, we never see Godzilla really think about how he's going to defeat his enemy before. Usually he just goes and fights on sheer just, I'm going to kill you kind of like anger. But this time, he uses Mechagodzilla's previous weakness again. He's like, well, you know, it worked last time, it's going to work this time. Tears his head right off. Great moment for Godzilla. It's some of the only real personality we get for Godzilla in this movie, because most of the time he shows up, he's a hero and whatever, but he doesn't really have any personality. He's more of just this weapon that, this superhero weapon that just shows up to defeat the bad guys and then goes about his business. Now, this is a great moment for Godzilla. So, Mechagodzilla's head is torn off, but he has a subhead underneath it, so he can still fight. That's the aliens, their second new addition. It fires some deadly lasers at Godzilla that really hurt him. Mifune dies, so he's used as a human shield by one of the aliens and gets killed. Again, like I said, he's a tragic character, not on the same level as like Serizawa being a tragic character. That is gold standard tragic character right there. But Mifune is tragic for the reason of he was right, and he was right to the extent of knowing Titanosaurus existed and being able to control him. He was laughed out of it. He was basically kicked out of existence. Like they killed the people who left him to die. That's basically what happened. They left him to die, and so his wife died. His daughter died. His daughter was turned into a weapon. He was seduced by these aliens, and so now he's getting killed by these aliens. When the Interpol agent shoots at one of the aliens who uses him as a human shield, and he dies. And the last thing he says is Katsura, and then he falls over dead. So. Level of tragedy with him. So Mifune dies. Now Katsura kills herself. So She remembers. She kind of snaps back to it. What's happening when she sees her father die, and then she basically remembers. Well, shoot, I'm the controller for Mechagodzilla. I have to die, and Ichinose won't kill her, so she kills herself. It's very tragic. Another female character in a Honda movie taking the lead. Great character. Honda's always great with female characters. It's even a special feature on the Terror of Mechagodzilla disc. The Women of Honda's movies. He always does great with female characters. So the fact that she is the most tragic of heroes in this movie, in the fact that she kills herself to save the day, but she's been the bad guy the whole time. It's really sad, and she's been the bad guy against her will. It's really sad. So, what else happened? So she kills herself to destroy to save the Earth from Mechagodzilla. Titanosaurus retreats. Mechagodzilla is destroyed. Godzilla destroys him. After Katsura kills herself, Mechagodzilla goes into shutdown. Godzilla beats him into pieces. Then Titanosaurus he retreats or whatever, get knocked into the water. We don't know if he dies. I think he's alive. So he gets out of there. Godzilla wins. The aliens die. They all get blown up, and by the atomic breath, I believe. And there you go. The last shot of the movie is Ichinose sitting on a cliff holding Katsura's dead body, watching Godzilla swim away into the ocean for the last time until 1984. This was 1975, literally 9 years later, almost a full decade. Great send-off for the hero Godzilla. Not a great send-off for Godzilla. Definitely there's better endings for the series. I definitely think Destroy All Monsters is a better way to end the series than this was. But they didn't know this was going to be the last movie, so they couldn't really do anything crazy with it. They didn't have the budget to either, so it's also sad for the fact that they did not know that it was going to be the last movie, meaning that Godzilla just wasn't profitable at this point. They were like, all right, well, screw it, right? You know, we can't really continue this series. And then thank God they kind of laid it to rest, because we'll get an amazing series to come. Now, I'm going to talk about the monsters in this one just because I kind of feel the need to. So it's the send-off, so I might as well talk about the monsters individually for this review. I'll start with Titanosaurus. He's the new guy on the block. I don't like him. I hate his cackle. He's got the annoying cackle. He's got one cool ability, which is his little tail flap, which he overuses in the movie. I don't think he's a neat design. He's just kind of a water Godzilla that doesn't have any special abilities. He's basically just a water dinosaur. That's all he is. I don't know why so many people love him. I don't. I'm not part of that camp. I don't love Titanosaurus. Mechagodzilla himself has a really neat new update. He looks a lot more menacing just because he looks a lot more battle damaged in this movie. He has those new abilities which really set him up as a real threat. Doesn't really have a personality because obviously he's being controlled by robots. He is a robot, or he's being controlled by aliens because he's a robot. Godzilla himself doesn't have a ton of personality, but Godzilla's whole arc through this the Showa series is just one amazing arc of Godzilla starting out this terrible, destructive force of nature in Godzilla Raids Again. Will kill anything that gets in his way, anything and everything, including other monsters. He just will trample on through Godzilla-verse Mothra. He is just the bad guy. Mothra-verse Godzilla just will trample on, destroying everything in his path. Ghidorah the three-headed monster, he's forced into helping people on Earth because he's forced in saving Earth so he can still survive. Moving on to Son of Godzilla, he learns how to love something with his son Minya. Then from there we get Godzilla really becoming a hero, full circle in, or at least half circle, I guess, technically. 180-degree switch from where we started in Godzilla vs. Hedra, when he becomes a full-out superhero in order to stop this terrible force that's going to destroy everyone on Earth. Then moving on from there, he basically stays this kind of superhero level character. He gets hardened after his experiences. I'm assuming, I guess you'll just have to say he gets hardened after his experience on Zone Fighter, because once Godzilla shows up after Jet Jaguar with that movie when he's all goofy and fun, after he shows up in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, he means business. Terror of Mechagodzilla, first of all, amazing redesign for Godzilla. Same suit from last movie, same face sculpt. They just slightly tweaked it to make him look a little bit more menacing and awesome. Definitely worked. This Godzilla design is just so dang good. I love it. This is my this is definitely in my top 3 or 4 favorite Godzilla designs for sure. I freaking love this design. So, really cool Godzilla's story, and then he's just this hardened hero at the end of the Showa series. Really great. I love it. So the music in this movie is great. I love the music. I definitely think Titanosaurus' theme is a little bit overplayed, but Godzilla's themes, all of them, are just so good. The main theme for this movie is pretty good, but Godzilla's themes, especially on their own, they're so good. The Shin Godzilla versions of these themes are so good. I love this movie's music. So the story is great for the fact of it's a return to form, a much darker Godzilla movie than we've had previously. Like I said, the only thing that I have a real problem with is the pacings. Just pacing and the tonal disconnect from the previous movie just I don't have as good of a time with this movie as I do with the last one. So the story is pretty good. The human stuff is okay. It's actually the best stuff in the movie, because the monster stuff itself, there should have been more. It should have been better. There should have been more. It's Godzilla's send-off. They should have done something more with it. Like I said, they didn't know it was going to be a send-off, so they couldn't. But there should have been more monsters in this movie. It takes about an hour into the movie, over halfway through, for this movie to really get good. Once it really gets good, it's because the monsters are on screen and they're doing awesome stuff. You really have to get to like these human characters, especially I think Katsura and Ichinose really work as characters for this movie. So those are really the only two that really stand out. So a little bit disappointing. The human stuff's the best part of this movie. The monster stuff could have been better. Overall, I'd rate it a 7.5 out of 10. If I was going to review the English cut, I would give it like a 6 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. It's not good. At least the English cut that I have. I have 2 versions of it. I've not watched the second version of it just because I felt no need to. I think that's the second version starts out with this like weird recap of the previous Showa movies, but it does it in a super odd way. Tries to connect movies that aren't connected. It's like the aliens came down to Earth with their mighty space monsters and destroyed stuff, and it's like showing footage of like Son of Godzilla or whatever. It's like, what? So really bad. I don't like that intro. I haven't seen that version of the English cut. I've heard it's basically just the Japanese cut, but with that intro. Now the one that I have, or the one that I grew up with, I hate it because it didn't make any sense. The ending of the movie, it's basically the same. It's got a lot of missing human scenes, that's for sure, but it's basically the same. It's a little bit more fast-paced, but then the ending of the movie just kind of happens. You have no idea what happens. You see, it's like Katsura like holds up the gun or something, and then you see like Mifune fall over bleeding. He's like, Katsura! And then you like see Katsura just, like, you see a gunshot, and then she falls over or something, and then you have no idea what happens. They really re-edit it to make it look like it's a happy ending, great ending, or whatever, but no, the Japanese ending is great. This Japanese movie is just so much better than the English cut. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's like one of those really old Godzilla DVDs. God, I wish I could remember what it was called, but it's not good. I don't like it. I don't like the English cut of this movie. I only watch the Japanese cut from now on, and I only got the Japanese cut about a year and a half ago. I only watch that. That's the only cut I like. So we're done with the Showa series. We just finished the Showa series. Cannot wait for next review. It's going to be Godzilla 1984. I have only seen this movie a few times, once or twice, so it's going to be great to watch this movie and really focus on it. Cannot wait. So, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. D-Man, out.